Hello everybody and welcome back to Letterboxd Book Club. My name is Claire.
And I'm Mackenzie.
And today we are discussing The Rivertown Vet by Jennifer Scoullar. I don't know how to say her last name.
I would say Scoullar, I think.
We would like to thank Penguin for sending this arc to us, although by the time this will be released, I think the book is already released. So that's our bad. But we're just going to fit it in the schedule, you know? Yeah. I don't want to be dictated by arcs, you know?
This is very exciting because this is an Australian book by an Australian author, which is always a fun time. I love Aussie represent. I love when we come up and do great things.
Yeah.
Okay.
I felt a huge sense of Australian, patriotism.
Yeah. I'm going to read the blurb and then I'm going to get into it.
All right, cool.
Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. A slow burn enemies to lovers romance by a favourite Australian author. Local vet Jana Malinski runs a wombat sanctuary with her sister on their family serene property by the Murray River. But Jana's routine is upended after a chance encounter with handsome accountant and single dad Mark, the man who broke her heart in high school. Offered the opportunity to run Wildfell Park, the town zoo that has fallen into disrepair, Jana must push past her hostility to save the local landmark and home to countless native and exotic animals. But working alongside Mark every day isn't easy, especially given the undeniable attraction between them. While she fights for her feelings, a new danger emerges, one that could threaten the very existence of Wildfell Park and Jana's dreams of an ideal future. Set in the gorgeous river country of South Australia, The Rivertown Vet is a heartfelt and charming tale about community, conservation and kindness. Do you want me to kick us off?
Lovely. Sure. I'm scared. I'm going to guess you did what I did.
What did you do?
Alright, never mind then.
Did you DNF this book, Claire?
I DNFADNFC. Did not finish and did not give a fuck. Did not fucking care, sorry. Sorry. That was really harsh.
I have been feeling like a piece of shit because I have been cancelling.
Stuff's coming up and that's fine.
And I'm pushing through. Okay.
You go for it and I'll explain.
Okay.
I have a whole spiel, but you go.
Okay. So, as an umbrella, I enjoyed this book.
Okay.
I enjoyed the Aussie-ness of it because I feel that, let me explain.
No.
I feel that when American authors or American media portrays Australia, you know, we're like that g'day mate, true blue, stereotypical, Bogan-esque Australia. And I find that in other, forms of media or other literature, that is quite cringy to read about.
Right.
Yeah. Whereas this, it felt very natural to me. It didn't feel cringy the way things were brought up, like the Tassie Devil conservation, in Tasmania and stuff, and the little facts here and there about Australian animals. It felt very organic to the story, and it felt natural. It wasn't ooh, did we have to include that? I felt though that, I don't know, I know it's Australian and I know it's set in Australia, but I wasn't.
You have to support it wholeheartedly.
No, but I wasn't imagining them as Australian.
Oh, okay.
And then it wasn't till the end that Mark gave me the ick.
Ooh, love that.
Because, and you wouldn't know this, because he's like, oh, I'll shout your pie or whatever. He said that to Jana at one point, and then he's like, oh, let's go get a feed, or and he says something I'm bloody hungry or something, and I'm just oh, ick now, that's so true blue Australian. Apart from that, all the conversation and stuff, it just felt very normal and it wasn't overly stereotypical. So I loved that aspect of it. I was really enjoying the story until about 75% of the way through, where, and I don't know where you're up to, we'll talk about this and then I'll explain what happened.
Okay.
Where it felt like it went a little bit off the rails, and so I'll talk about
off the rails, just plot
wise,
and stuff.
Yeah, it changed. It something happened, and I was like, oh, okay, that doesn't,
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so yes, I did DNF. This is going to be every excuse under the sun. The past couple of weeks, I've just.
So remember when I DNF'd a book one page in, so it doesn't matter.
No. I know. I feel like I have to. I'm on trial. I need to justify why I DNF'd a book. When I saw a TikTok the other day where it's some people just DNF within the first 100 pages because it doesn't get to them, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I DNF'd at 33% in, but because I've had such an interrupted reading, environment and process where not even outside of my control. I have family come over and stay, and I like deep privacy when I want to read a book. Even if I'm sitting on the couch, I don't want anyone to talk to me. You know, I just want to be fully focused. So with that interrupted space, I was constantly picking it up, putting it down, So yeah, it's just been very interrupted, and each time I put it down, I just didn't feel excited or really immersed to pick it back up again. I didn't feel that joy to pick it up and read it again. But though, from what I've read, I do feel the writing had strong descriptions, strong depth, strong substance. It's excellent conversations about conservation and the idea of like running like essentially like a private zoo and all that good stuff. And yeah, I just didn't really feel super drawn to like keep picking it up and reading it. Like each time, I got drifted further and further away from wanting to finish it. I also found early Jana's. All right, so where I got up to is they've fixed a buffalo or water buffalo fence or something like that. Was that little
the water buffalo escaped?
Yeah. And then she just introduced us to the what's her name? It was the animal rights activist Annie West. Yeah, she introduced that, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm kind of done. But it's good in this type of book to have that sort of other perspective and like see how like they would presumably interact with the space and how they're all for the welfare of animals, etc., etc. No, very good substance, and I found the dialogue quite natural and normal, and it doesn't come off as like entertainment cringy sort of dialogue. It feels very real.
Yeah, it felt like a real story that could happen.
It felt like that's how I would describe it. Like I don't want to compare it to like an Ali Hazelwood, but I feel like Ali Hazelwood and like Tessa Bailey and all those authors or contemporary romance authors are just for the entertainment and like. And
it is very much like fantasy, fantasy situations of things happening. Like,
and it's like it can be a bit cringy, but this one felt more real. But also, I don't know if it's just because it's like a photo on the cover and that's messing with my psychology of it. But everything did feel real, and I respected that. But I also felt a little goofy towards Jana, her qualms with Mark and I feel like that entire conflict is not.
Okay, but you don't even know what happened.
I'm gonna guess what happened.
Okay,
and then I'll tell you. Initially, from what I know, allegedly, an incident happened between her and Mark in high school, and then she ran away crying. She called her parents. Her parents had a big accident, and I feel like that sort of resentment and bitterness towards Mark is not a good foundation for like a relationship to start upon. All right.
Okay.
And Mark I got to the point where he was like researching the wildlife sanctuary and everything because Carly wants to be super involved, right? And then he's developing like respect and like a charm towards the place, and like then he's developing sort of like a crush and a charm towards Jana herself. But bro, this girl has been giving you the cold shoulder the entire time. She is only talking to you in a professional sense. She's keeping everything short, sharp, and sweet. What about that screams, I'm attracted to you, and I want to
treat them mean, keep them keen.
Exactly. In my eyes, I really thought like Mark had a better rapport with even Sasha early in the beginning. And I feel like, well, that's someone who wants to engage with you. Like, surely that would be a better partner in the way she talks and treats Carly. Like, I feel like that seems to be the right direction, except it's always towards the cold ones who don't want anything to do with you. But anyway, that's kind of irked me a little bit.
Okay.
Can I guess what happened?
Sure.
About that night, about the Mark and Jana's conflict. Miscommunication, obviously. Okay, so they're in high school. They're at the
Scarborough College.
Yeah, the privileged, rich, fancy place, private school. I don't know. I've been thinking maybe because he's with Harper at the time, allegedly. And from what I know,
Harper's gone at this point because she dropped out middle of year 12.
Okay,
because she was pregnant.
I know she was pregnant, but Jana, I feel like as an adult, from what I read, didn't know that aspect.
Yeah.
But so her and Mark were probably going to get together. Mark was going to tell her about a pregnancy, but then he didn't get the chance because Jana was upset because Mark was choosing Harper, and then boom, life went to shit.
No.
Okay. It's not as simple as that.
Okay.
All right.
I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
But I also want to talk about other things in the book that were happening as well.
But no, ultimately I did respect, and I agree with you for what you said in the beginning, but I just didn't feel drawn to finish it, and I wasn't excited to finish it, and I want to be immersed and excited and have it consume my every waking moment, and it just was not it for me.
I was the same as you in that I didn't feel compelled to pick it up.
Compelled, that's the best word.
Like I mean, and this is not an excuse, but I have 2 kids. I'm very busy in the evenings. During the day, I occupy myself with house chores, etc. And I didn't feel compelled to sit down and read it. And then usually I read at night, and usually I put that time aside to read, but I also found myself not putting that time aside to read this book in particular. although I did enjoy the story, I wasn't rushing to finish it, which is fine. I felt in the story that I felt like there was too much going on. Like there was Odessa, the Wombat Sanctuary, and then there was, like Carly's little side plot of her not enjoying school, and then there was the zoo stuff, and then in the end, like there's Annie West stuff, and then there is a sabotage happening as well in the end. So there was a lot. It became very convoluted to me in that like this wouldn't happen sort of thing, I guess. Okay, so what happened between Mark and Jana is also, this is the other thing, there's this huge conflict between them, and then like it caused her parents this crash that, changed and ruined their lives. And you really don't find out about it until about 50% of the way in.
Really?
And then you don't really find out then that was another miscommunication until like at the end of the book.
Right.
So Mark and Jana started up like a texting relationship, and they were like telling each other everything, blah, blah, blah. This is my first red flag, because she said as well, she's like, oh, it's a red flag. It was like only on text. Like it was never face to face. Anyway, so they're like spilling all like stuff to each other. She's telling him.
This is when they were in high school?
Like, in high school, yeah. She's telling him all this stuff. And then like she says that like, oh, like she loves him or whatever. And then he ends up texting back like, oh, it was a joke. Like I just bet my friends I couldn't make you fall in love with me. Blah, blah, blah. I'm going to release like all your messages on like the school Instagram page or whatever.
That's really cunty to do.
Yeah. So that's what, made her run away.
Right.
And then so she like brings it up, and he's like, I didn't do that. Like,
okay.
Yeah, but and then in the end you find out it was Harper. Because Harper knew that Mark liked her.
Yeah.
And then so she's like, oh, sorry, like it was me, like I catfished you. And it's like, you caused
irreparable?
Yeah, irreparable damage to like her parents.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Our order is on the way, by the way.
Lovely.
So there's that. Okay, so we're in the zoo. Also, again, everything is easier when you're rich.
Yes, of course.
So they get a donor like this Frida Abraham.
Forbes. Yeah, Forbes.
Yeah, Forbes.
Not
like
Australian Forbes. Like
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Who's like, I'm going to give you like, I'm going to essentially fund the reopening of the zoo. Cool. Whatever. And then there's like an incident where they have a tiger under anesthetic, but the anesthetic wears off and they're like, I've put enough in, like I can't give it anymore. And so then Jana like has to kind of, calm the situation down and then not involve police. And then like there's the animals like are getting out and stuff. And so it ends up being sabotage.
So everything is not really under control.
Yeah. So they need to figure out like, well, who's sabotaging, and they think it's Annie, and then
the old woman.
That's what I thought for a long time. I was like, oh, it's Hazel. But no, it ends up being, were you there when they hired Amber as a keeper?
I forget what she does.
Oh, she was just like an assistant keeper. Like,
yeah, probably.
It was her. And then this is where it got really convoluted and weird to me. So it came out that it was Amber, and then she says that she did it because she was getting paid to do it, because she is addicted to online gambling. And she had gambled away all her money, and then she gambled away all her mum's money, and she has a sick sister who needs surgery. And the surgery can only happen in like Germany or the US, so they need money for this because she gambled away all her mum's money.
Jesus.
And yeah, I just felt like it didn't need that. Like
it came across as maybe a little too goofy.
Yeah, it's like Tony Alfonso, like
right,
he has his hands in lots of pies or whatever. Paid me to do it. And it's like, it could have just been that she was getting paid to do it, because that's a shitty thing to do anyway. Like, it didn't have to have this online gambling. She could have
the two incomes.
Yeah, I feel like that's a very different story as well. Like, if you're going to write about, like, online gambling addiction, write about online gambling addiction. It doesn't need to be in this zoo situation.
Yeah, right.
And then also Frida dies.
Oh, okay.
And because she put all the money in a trust, like, they don't have access to it unless it becomes, like, a charity.
Right.
So, and then it does, and they get the money anyway. But then
everything has to work out.
Exactly. And then also another part of this that I found really inaccurate, like and unbelievable, is that so they find out that they're going to run out of money, essentially. So Mark immediately like puts his house up for sale,
oh my God,
sells his car, sells the jet ski. He's like, oh, my dad can give us a loan of $50,000 as well, like Jesus. Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you're an accountant, like you're the zoo's accountant. And it's like, yes, I understand that you love Jana, but you're not going to sell your entire livelihood
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, he's selling the house. So then he and Carly move in with Jana in like the manor, the zoo manor.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, this wouldn't happen. Like,
your suspension of disbelief kind of was, you were more into like the believability of it. You're like, I don't,
Yeah. And I could understand, like, oh yeah, we're getting a loan from his father. I could understand if they were just getting loans off people, but like, oh, I'm going to sell my entire livelihood.
Yeah, right. To save this charity zoo project.
Exactly, yeah. And also, I just couldn't picture the zoo because I kept like picturing like Melbourne Zoo, and I was like, well, that's unrealistic. Like, it's not going to be that big. But then I was picturing,
it'd have to be big.
But then I was picturing like Tiger King, like
yeah.
I was like, I don't know, I couldn't picture it, but
huge property.
Yeah, that was fine. Yeah, and then Harper kind of comes back into the picture at one point. Like, she doesn't show up for a meet with like Carly. She's like, I'm going to come spend the weekend, and then she doesn't. And that really got me because as a person who has been disappointed by parents not coming to visit and saying that they will,
then that just adds to the real.
Yeah, exactly. So that I liked that part of it. But then Harper then comes back and is like, oh, she's getting married to like an older rich man.
Of course.
And he has 2 sons to a previous marriage, but they can't have any more kids because she got her tubes tied after having Carly because she didn't want to risk another accidental pregnancy. And I was like, no doctor in the whole fucking world would ever tie your tubes at 18.
I know the amount of like medical discourse I see online as well. It's like, it just seems, it's really difficult.
Yeah, so then she tried to get it reversed and the surgery didn't work.
So this was or is this just her explaining what's happened to her, or is this actively happening?
No, she's just explaining that's what happened. Anyway, and so then she's like, okay, well, Carly's going to come live with me because then we have like ready, set, family, go.
Yeah, right. Ready, set, family, go.
Yeah. Yeah, but then so Carly and Harper and Arthur, the older man, come to visit, and then he and Mark, like, well, he spends time with Carly, and then he and Mark spend time, and he's like, I'm not going to take your daughter. Like, it's clear that she loves it here.
Yeah,
she could just come and spend time with us whenever. And again, like, that felt too easy.
Yeah, because like really, Harper just fucked off to be an airline hostess and stuff, and like. Yeah. You've essentially abandoned your child to the man that you've never told 6 years ago.
Exactly.
Or whatever,
and
crazy behaviour.
Yes. And also, they hold like this big fundraiser and they raise all this money for the zoo. It's great. And then there is an epilogue and 2 years later, and they were married the previous year, Mark and Jana, and she's also pregnant, and that was really the nail in the coffin for me.
It had to happen at the end. I love that.
Because, of course, what else is there to do in a small town while you're also running a zoo is to fucking get pregnant.
Yeah, you can have a newborn, run everything. Yeah, that's so funny.
Oh, and then Jana and Annie West sit down and have a meal together.
Okay.
And then Jana like explains like, oh, you know, we're doing this for like conservation, and then we're going to do like a wombat like area and Tassie devils like that we're going to bring up from like Bimbara.
To kind of reassure her that you're there for the actual welfare and
genuine welfare and it's for like the like for gentle like soft release of animals as well.
Yeah.
And then like in the end Annie's like, oh, like this is great, so she comes around and just
I would have just assumed Annie would have had greater play, because you know there's always a push and pull between ethics around zoos and sanctuaries and conservation of animals, and animals rights activists are all in for the well-being of animals and stuff and their welfare, which is great, but I thought she'd get in the way more. But
I just felt like there were too many characters, there were too many things going on, too many red herrings.
From what you just said, like this book is like 360 maybe not over 400 pages, and that sounds like a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I got to halfway and I was struggling, and I was like, okay, like I've only got half left. And like the amount of stuff that happened in the second half.
And here I think a lot of the contemporary romances, they just drag it out. Like I don't know how they managed to write 300 pages of nothing. You know? Wow, that's crazy.
So ultimately, like I enjoyed it, but I felt there was just a bit too much going on in it.
Yeah. I'm sorry to disappoint you. But no, I respect everything about it though. And it made me question the whole week of like, what do I believe in about zoos and everything? Like, ultimately I do, for like the level of conservation, and of course there are caveats to that. Obviously,
well, I know Australia does have like their laws, and our conservation is really big.
Thank you to the Irwin family as well. The trendsetters. But then as I was reading this as well, and I think back to like more exotic animals, and I think of Tiger King, and I just think how stupid it is that he was able to have like a tiger sanctuary, and same with like
the amount of big cat sanctuaries that they have in America. Like,
I don't think that really. See, this is where like the hypocrisy and like it's such a complex idea, because you can't just say, you know, I think zoos are good. Like there are caveats and there are extreme sort of descriptions after that. Like you got to assume like you hope there's no animal abuse, there's no abuse for performing, etc.
Yeah. Well, also I think the level of care in like regulated zoos is so different to just like a hokey person being like, I'm gonna feed them dog food, I guess. Like I can't afford to feed them.
Yeah, for sure. And I just thought of like Tiger King and like people who are just obsessed with exotic animals just for the sake of being the pick-me of pet owners. And and I just keep thinking like, back to Tiger King, like tigers just don't belong in Florida. I think that's where they're from, Florida, the Tiger King debacle. And I just think, you're not trained enough and you don't really take proper care, and that in itself is risky and dangerous. And just made me think about people who want exotic. Like I know the point of Jana Zoo is also highlighting Australian animals and like endangered animals and natural. That's okay, natural fauna and everything. But I just kept thinking about like exotic animals and like people's obsession with that of wanting to be different, and all I hear in the end are just horror stories of people who own monkeys and like chimps and like other things that end up hurting them, and it's just like it drives me crazy.
Well, this is what I just couldn't imagine like this big zoo in like this country town, and it just sounded like they had this menagerie of animals.
It was really overwhelming, because when I thought that Hazel had a zoo, I just thought, maybe she had maybe a couple of kangaroos or like a couple of wombats as well or something, or koalas. Apologies, we just had a quick food break.
For you it was 1 second, for us it was 3 hours.
3 hours, could you imagine? What were we talking about? Just like exotic animals and zoos and stuff, where you draw the line and the ethics around it. I really believed.
I mean, really, at the end of the day, are we not the zoo?
Very philosophical, mind-blowing statement you made there, Kenzie.
Thank you.
But no, I think people want to collect exotic animals, but then in the name of keeping them, they then need to create this sort of sanctuary disguise of it, when really they just want to have funky animals or weird animals that really don't belong in that climate. And then, that's where, like, if you want to learn about an elephant and you want to see an elephant, go to a properly regulated zoo. We're not about any sort of animal abuse or
like there's people, I always see, the people with, like, those little monkey things on TikTok, the monkeys. The little monkeys.
The little monkeys.
And they have nappies and stuff, and it's like, surely this isn't, like, a good life for them.
Yeah, no. That's just, for the sake of entertaining oneself.
Yeah.
But no, thank you for finishing the book, Kenzie.
You're welcome. I strive for success.
I think we're just about even now in that, like, one DNF, one push through. Maybe we should communicate more often. We always say this. Maybe we just need to tell each other that like, I'm DNFing or whatever. But no, I did respect the dialogue and like where it was going.
Yeah, sorry, I've just read a review, that they really enjoyed the book and stuff, but then they only gave it 4 stars.
I mean, it's just the way it is.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, and I stick with my kind of issues leading into the book, and how could Mark be developing a crush on somebody who really does not want to interact with him at all? It just seems pretty, super forced.
I do have another comment as well, sorry.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, maybe this is just because I enjoy smut, but they had a couple of, like, love scenes or whatever, but they were both fade to black.
Yep.
And then it would be like, oh, Jana woke up like exhausted after their night of love making. And I was like,
prove it.
But it was like, and I'm like, I don't need explicit, like, I don't need cock and pussy. But like, I don't know, I would have liked a little bit more of like a romantic build up, because it is like advertising it under the trope as well, like single dad romance and stuff. Like,
you want more of like maybe even the foreplay.
Yeah.
Foreplay of writing and foreplay of the love.
Yeah,
aspect.
or something. Yeah. Yeah, I just didn't enjoy that, like the fade to black. It's like, come on, we're all grown ups here.
Fair enough. Well, you should probably have to cut something out. Like, you can't have everything. But like, at that point, why not make the book 400 pages? Yeah, I was going to ask, was there any like spice related stuff or smut?
Not really.
Which sounds appropriate, because like the point of this book is not to be like smutty smut, or it's meant to just have the romance sideline. And it's really about raising awareness for animal conservation, animal welfare, running a zoo, etc. But I did respect that aspect to it because it's such like a niche idea as well.
Yeah.
Because I think we're slowly losing focus of our environment and
100%.
and everything, and this really kind of pulls you back. So if you're someone who's really into that idea and you just love and adore animals and you want to learn more about conservation, like this book would be for you. And like, yeah, from the very first page, like you learn some fun facts about wombats, and like that's pretty cool. Like I would have never known. I think I wrote one down just to have it as an example. Wombats have like whiskers, and it helps them with something in particular. I forget. Oh yeah, wombats inherently improve soil health by bringing nutrients to the surface and burying organic matter. And, like that's good, and that's like their little role in this environment ecosystem. It's so cool.
I love it.
Although the first couple of chapters were pretty funny because Jana is working at Odessa, her family wombat sanctuary, and she is doing research on the wombats and their tunneling, and I think it's called something else. It starts with a W. But yeah, and then like everything is going wrong, like a little Wall-E robot camera gets stuck, and she ends up getting stuck, and then that's how Mark comes into play.
I did like the meet cute of them.
Yeah. Because it especially seems like a natural and common thing to have occurred. Like they hit a wombat, there's a wombat sanctuary just up the road, let's surrender it there. And yeah, it just seemed very natural and of course very appropriate given the style of the story and what it's about. And yeah, I just love that it's based in rural South Australia along the Murray River. Very good Aussie culture from what I've read. And yeah, it wasn't very stereotypically dialogue like "oh mates" and like "g'day" and like you grongo or something like that.
Until the end.
I suppose because you gotta not alienate people, because some people might not appreciate all that slang or colloquialism anyway. So you may as well be safe. How Jana felt towards Mark and that sort of conflict, even though now we know that it wasn't him. Like I just feel like that's not a good like foundation for a relationship. But there always has to be,
when they get together first time, she says to him like, "Oh, can we keep this casual, like a friends with benefits thing?" Okay. And that's her like separating, like, "Oh, I'm so angry at him for this, but like I have needs."
Fair enough.
But I feel like I don't know, just she's a grown ass adult woman. Like you can have that conversation, be like, "Why did you hurt me?" Like that.
And he'd be like, "Sorry, what?" And then she'd be like, "Receipts." And he'd be like, "No." It just reminds me of that Elsie Silver book with Theo and Winter. Like it wasn't Theo that did those things. But no, it was cool. You learned some fun facts really early, and it pulls you in a little bit. I just didn't feel compelled to keep picking it up or motivated to read it, unfortunately. But it's just me. But no, when I did start reading it, I did feel a sense of like strong Australian like patriotism, and I'm like, this must be how Americans feel on the 4th of July. Like very Aussie this, Aussie that. It's relatable to us. Whereas sometimes in contemporary romance or just other fiction books that are based in America or like the UK, obviously it's really hard to relate to because you're not from there and you don't understand the jokes, like the country jokes or any sort of intimate sort of memes. Whereas this, I just felt like, oh, this is so Aussie, and I just felt so happy.
For sure.
Then I just didn't want to read it, so sorry. Very un-Australian-like on my part, unfortunately. So ultimately the zoo is saved, and like everything is
hunky dory.
Love that. And I think they had some big cats too, some exotic like tigers and like lions as well.
And a sun bear.
Sun bears are the dopey bit looking birds, aren't they? I remember there was a meme about sun bears a few years ago.
And then different monkeys and stuff they had.
And this is what I don't get. Like, what is a tiger or a lion doing in South Australia?
Exactly.
That's what I think. It's
like, this is where the ethical ambiguity got to me, because I'm like, how ethically did you get lions and tigers and bears? Oh my.
I would assume it's just instances they just get bounced around from other sanctuaries or zoos that can't keep their licenses, and they just keep passing them around until someone is ultimately successful. Otherwise, because I think Jana was at the risk of them, or most of them, being put down if they can't be rehomed. But then I did like the integration of the wombat sanctuary as well with the zoo. Gives the animals more space, and like as you said, soft release back, because Womble was hurt because Mark car hit it. But like, I'm sure it would have been able to be reintegrated back into its home as well pretty easily. Oh, cool.
Oh, I've also gone to look for some stars.
I know, this is where Like, because it's not, it doesn't have hundreds of thousands
it's
of
not
reviews.
an international,
So, unfortunately, all right, we'll go to the stars that listen.
Okay.
So, the stars that listen is a segment on this podcast where we pick a 1-star review and a 5-star review from Goodreads. Unfortunately, today there are no 1-stars because it isn't like a widely known book, or there hasn't been enough time to generate so much like feedback. So, but lucky for Jennifer, there's no 0 stars. So, like, people ultimately finish it. I will be the first 1-star. Okay. No. So
I'll read the one that I found.
So yeah, we'll just be picking whatever we want to
that read. Someone gave a 4-star. Okay, so this is my first book by this author and definitely won't be my last. This book is about new beginnings and leaving things in the past. So many themes in this book, such as redemption, forgiveness, and bullying. What I loved most about this book was the second chance romance trope. The fact that it was a high school one is even better. I also enjoyed how the book centers on animal conservation. Such a refreshing storyline from the ones I'm used to. It held my interest the whole way through from start to finish.
Must be nice.
But then they only gave it 4 stars.
I don't know, something about it just didn't pop. Yeah, at that point, just give it the 5.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some people are really harsh to give 5s.
Yeah.
And then there are people like, it made me giggle, so 5 stars. Yeah. Alright, so my 4-star, because it's not really a 5-star, but whatever. Alright, this was quite a good story of trials, tribulation, and tragedy. Things are not always what they seem. The only reason this isn't a 5-star read is the female lead character made me want to cringe half the time. No.
Claire's struggling.
The only reason this isn't a 5-star read is the female lead character made me want to cringe. Half the time, I wanted to smack her for being such a twat. It's harsh, but 4 stars, and that's all I got. Okay. That's because, like, there's no... Like, what's the point in having super negative feedback than what I've already expressed?
Yeah.
Like, it's not even that negative. I just personally didn't feel compelled. It was a me thing. Yeah. Like, that's just me. I'm sorry. Well,
anyway, so once again, thanks to Penguin Australia.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry I failed you.
You can catch us on Instagram at letterboxbookclub. From there, our link tree is in our bio, where you can find us in all the places: Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, SoundCloud if you're old school.
All that good shit.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Bye.